On show. Oops.
Okay.
Hang up, Siri. So, yes, it is the Pro and the Con show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Thanks for tuning into the show. So, always looking to encourage people to be better citizens. So, focus on the facts, ferret out the facts, right? So, look at multiple streams of information. Don't get caught up in the rhetoric. Stay away from the emotion, the who, the what, the where, and the when, and so on. Today's show, I just really wanted to talk, I call it stocks, and I want to talk about the stock market a little bit because there's this widening gap in the finances between the very rich and the very poor, and or the very rich and the rest of us. And it has a lot to do with the fact that, as you become more wealthy, it's just easier to acquire more wealth because you can influence things that people without wealth can't influence. So there's a famous quote, I can't remember which billionaire it was, but he said, if you've got $100, it's really hard to make another $100. But if you have $100 million, it's really easy to make another 100 million. And, I think about the stock market, and the stock market, I think at some point it had a fair amount to do with corporate performance and things like that. And there has always been a fair amount of emotion, as part of the stock market, and speculation is the big thing. And right now, for example, one of the things that drives speculation is the fact that you can do trading electronically for free. So there's a lot of people that are just looking at like the stock market performance, and they just try to time it. So they watch certain stocks, or they watch the market in general. There's exchange traded funds, ETFs they're called, which kind of watch the markets, the various major indexes proportionally, and the people just kind of watch this, and at a moment's notice, if the trend continues upward, they just stay that way. And yes, there's up and downs, but if the trend is generally upward, they'll just stay with it. And then the moment that they're convinced that the trend is downward, they'll sell, and there's no transaction fee or anything like that. And that's why there's so much activity in the stock market, because there are literally people who are trading on a nanosecond level, and it's because they can do it for free. It's all driven by computers. But the other part of it, there's two other parts about the stock market. So a tremendous amount of it is driven by emotion. Then the other part, so it's not really corporate earnings or performance anymore. It's the perception. It's just all about perception. How well are these people doing, and how will they continue to do? Totally perception. And then there's the factor of since we went away from pensions years ago, we started doing more 401k kinds of things. So now that there's the average investor is not investing in the stock market per se, but just dumping money into it. And so there's been this climbing value in the stock market, mostly because, the average investor in their 401k is putting at least some portion of it in the stock market because that's what's recommended. But they don't stand a chance against people of wealth who actually are monitoring what's going on, and then also introducing the third and fourth things that I want to talk about, which is one, insider trading. So one of the things that definitely occurs on a regular basis in the stock market, and there's laws against it, but the reality is that even legally, there are certain people that can invest legally with insider information. And I speak of members of various boards of directors. And I've seen this a couple of times in my life. one time I was I was a employee of Corning, and at the time I was in the mix of management, and we were talking about what to do after the .com debacle and the falling of the market. And Corning had gone all the way down to $1 a share, and they had been at $100 a share. They'd gone all the way down to $1 a share. And I remember this because my first wife said, well, we should buy 5,000 or 10,000 shares. But what I remember was we had significant meetings with various managers, and we all universally recommended that we declare bankruptcy, because there was so much indebtedness that we would find relief for. It was in the best interests of Corning, the corporation, to do that. Well, there is a family that owns a significant portion of Corning still. They've been part of the Corning ownership for many, many, many years. And the one fellow was fairly old, but he came out of retirement. And the reason why he did was he said, we are not declaring bankruptcy because I still have a lot of stock and it will make it worthless. And I'm not doing that. So here we go. And so, but the thing about that was there were board of directors members who knew about that leaning, knew that that was about to happen, and they started buying up stock, millions and millions of shares at $1 a share. And, just recently at CommScope, for example, a company I used to work at, there's, the stock price is going down, 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 down. It goes to like $5.50 a share. And again, one of the board members legally buys a whole bunch of shares. And ever since, the stock price has been going up and up and up. And I'm sorry, but these people that have integral knowledge of the corporation and the corporate plans and, forecast, information, detailed forecast information, general forecast information, they should not be allowed to participate in these companies or participate in the stock market. And then that leads me to the last thing, which is people become famous enough or wealthy enough that they actually influence the stock market. So there's a guy named Jim Cramer. He's on television, and Mad Money, and he's this very the word is not coming to me, but he's a very he's very distinctive in that he's very verbose and anyway, he jumps around and screams and rings honks horns and all this other stuff. Well, because he's watchable, he's entertaining, people watch, and then he influences. And the thing is, very easy for him to buy stock and then say, oh, I think you ought to buy it. It has some influence. Stock price goes up. He sells. He makes money. And then there are people like Warren Buffett, and gets back to the, it's really easy to make another 100 million if you got 100 million. So Warren Buffett has billions of dollars. And now by virtue of him buying up some shares of whatever company or whatever, and then announcing to the world, I have bought these, share prices go up because Warren Buffett has said that he thinks it's a good looking company and or industry. There you go. The rest of us really suffer, and so I don't know what the right answer is about the stock market, but there definitely would be there is a very strong need for some very strong regulation about who can participate in it, how often you can trade stocks, and really, why does it even exist? It's really this speculation. It's legalized gambling, speculation. It's like betting the horses, only it's betting the companies. And and for most of us, that's quite scary. And unfortunately, because our money, a significant number of us who don't really actively pursue the stock market or actively try to understand it and participate in it, because that's very difficult to do. Yeah, our money goes in, and we just hope that on the end of the whatever years that we've had, a significant increase in the value, and that depends on the period. So I for sure I remember I lost like 40% of the value of my stock portfolio back in 2002 or something like that, and it took 10 years to come back. So the lost 10 years. Well, anyway, so that's what I wanted to say about the stock market. It's something that all of us, the average people, should be very concerned about. How fair is it to the average person? And it definitely is. There's definitely a bent direction where people of wealth can more easily extract wealth from the stock market than the average person, which of course keeps that growing that gap in financial capability of individuals. All right, so for Wednesday, June 10th, 2020, I'm Michael James Ott. This has been the Pro and Con Show. Till the next show, bye for now.